Or, there is a quiet moment at the end of the day that most people never talk about. The lights are off, the noise is gone, your body finally gives in to exhaustion, and there you are, lying still, staring into the darkness, with thoughts you could not escape all day suddenly rushing back. And then it happens. You start to pray, not perfectly, not formally, not even out loud sometimes, just a few words, maybe just a whisper in your mind, and almost immediately, something interrupts that moment, a thought. Or, is this wrong? Should I be kneeling instead? Should I get up? Is God even listening to me like this? Let me ask you something honestly. Who taught you that your position determines your prayer? Or, because that belief did not come from God, it came from people. And here is where everything begins to shift, because Scripture never says that God only listens when you are standing, kneeling, or in some perfect posture. Or, what it reveals is something far deeper. God listens to the heart, not the position. But here is the tension. If that is true, then why do so many believers still feel guilty praying while lying down? Why does something so natural feel so wrong? Stay with me, because by the end of this, that guilt is going to break. Not emotionally, biblically. And the first example that proves this truth does not happen in comfort. It happens at the edge of death. King Hezekiah was not in a temple. He was not kneeling. He was not surrounded by worship. He was lying in bed, dying. And then the prophet came with a message: set your house in order. You are going to die, no delay, no second chance. Pause there. What would you do if you heard that? Panic? Fear? Silence? Hezekiah did something simple. Or, he turned his face to the wall and prayed. No ritual, no posture correction, no preparation, just desperation. And here is what should shake you. God answered immediately, before the prophet even left. God stopped him and said, I have heard his prayer. 15 more years were added to his life. Now ask yourself this. Did God wait for him to get up first? Did God say, come back when you are kneeling? No. God responded to a man lying in bed. That alone should break the lie, but let us go deeper. Or, because maybe you are thinking, that was an emergency situation. What about normal life? Good question, because the next example is not about crisis. It is about daily relationship, and it reveals something even more personal. King David, a man described as after God's own heart. Or, if anyone understood how to correctly, it was him. And yet, where did he often meet God? In his bed, at night, in stillness. He said, on my bed I remember you. I think of you through the night. Let that sink in. Or, not in public, not in performance, in private lying down. And here is the question. Why does that matter? Because night reveals truth. During the day, you can control your image. At night, you cannot hide from your thoughts. Nor. That is where real prayer happens. Honest, unfiltered. And Scripture even commands this. Meet your heart on your bed and be silent. So now we have a pattern. God does not just accept prayer while lying down. He invites it. But here is where it becomes deeper. Or, think about when you usually pray like that, when you are tired, when you are overwhelmed, when you have nothing left. And that leads to the real truth most people miss. God is not waiting for your strength. He meets you in your weakness. So let me ask you something. Or, could it be that your most powerful prayers happen when you are lying down? Because that is when you stop pretending. That is when you become real. And that is exactly where God moves. Nor. Scripture says the Spirit helps you in your weakness, not in your perfection. In your weakness, that changes everything. Or, because it means the moment you feel least qualified to pray is the moment heaven is listening closest. And here is the truth. You cannot kneel all day. You cannot stand forever. Or, but you are called to pray without ceasing, so how is that possible? Only one way. Prayer must move beyond posture. It must become connection. In every moment. Driving, walking, sitting. And yes, lying in bed at night. Let me make this real. Maybe you are a parent who collapses at the end of the day, completely drained. Is that prayer less valuable? No, maybe you are dealing with pain, illness, or exhaustion. Does God require you to prove something physically? No. Or, maybe the only moment you have is when your head finally hits the pillow. And in that moment, you whisper a prayer, Do you think heaven ignores that? Not even for a second, because God is not measuring your posture, or He is responding to your heart. And here is the deeper truth. Sometimes, lying down is the only place where your pride disappears, where your defenses drop, where your words become honest, and that is exactly where God meets you, not in performance, in truth. So the question is no longer, is it okay to pray lying down? The real question is, why did you ever think it was not? Now you see it clearly. The guilt you felt was never from God. It was built from human expectations, or from traditions that look spiritual but are not required, because Scripture shows something simple and powerful. God heard Hezekiah on his deathbed. God met David in his bed at night. God commands you to seek Him even in stillness. So let me ask you one final question. What has been holding you back from praying freely? Fear of doing it wrong? Fear of not being spiritual enough? Fear that God would not listen? Let that go, because prayer was never about position, nor it was always about connection, and connection does not wait for perfect conditions. It happens in real moments, tired moments, kiki moments, broken moments, even lying down in the dark. So tonight, you lay your head down. Do not overthink, just speak, even if it is simple, or even if it is messy, even if it is just a whisper, because God is not waiting for you to get up. He is already there listening and responding, right where you are.